When I talk to people about self-sabotage, I usually hear one of three things. And spoiler alert, none of them are actually good, but all of them completely natural, completely human. The first one is when I speak to an artist, especially performing artists like dancers, singers, actors. And when I tell them I help people with their self-sabotage mechanisms, they usually say, "Oh, I do that. I sabotage myself all the time." And it always makes me smile because that used to be me. And when I speak to business people, managers, leaders, people who are in leading positions, and I tell them the same thing, I usually get a very different answer. I get, okay, what do I get out from this? What's the outcome if I do this? Now, when I speak to athletes, especially footballers, the first thing I often hear is, I don't do that. But here's the truth. We all do that. You do, I do, and it's not because there's something wrong with us. Self-sabotage isn't just a bad habit, it's built into how we operate as humans. Actually, it is just trying to keep us from being heard, but I get to that in the next video. So the real question is, how is self-sabotage showing up for you? Because once you see it, you can start to break your self-sabotage. And chances are you recognize yourself in more than just one of these types. So I wanted to share these observations I made over the years because I believe they will spark off some really helpful insights for you so you can crack beyond your self-sabotage mechanisms. Let me break it down into these three sabotages that, yeah, in my head are almost like archetypes that I see all the time in my work. And honestly, as I said before, most of us are a mix of them anyway. So the first one is, I like to call it the romanticizer. And that's the first one I come across, especially in performing artists. This is the creative, the dreamer, the one who expresses through movement, voice, story, or art. And if that's you, your gift is most likely your depth. You feel deeply, you move people with your work, but the danger is you are drawn to the drama, sometimes even stuck in the identity of struggle itself. And I know some of you are already ready to turn this off because you resent me so much for saying this. But it's true. Sometimes we're all stuck in the identity of struggle itself. You've probably been trained to receive criticism constantly, maybe in a studio, maybe in front of a casting panel. And somewhere along the way, you started believing that struggle equals worth. There are also some deep cultural programmings that say bullshit like you have to struggle for your art, you'd never be good enough to be on stage, or who do you think you are? That's actually the stuff that I grew up with. I used to be a classically trained dancer and I used to work in that industry for many, many years. And I remember standing in front of a mirror 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, being continuously told, you're not strong enough, you're not tall enough, you don't turn enough, you don't stretch enough, you're not flexible enough, you're not manly enough, you're not flat enough. Sometimes you're not beautiful enough, and sometimes you don't have enough depth. So basically, you're just not enough. And that leaves its mark when you hear it over and over again. And it shows up when you strive for the spotlight to entertain others, entertain the world, and be out there. Those beliefs that at the same time tell you that that shouldn't be you. It's not safe. So you loop. You process, you spiral, you wait for the perfect feeling before making a move. But the truth is, your talent is real. You don't have to suffer for it. But your system, your subconscious system doesn't know that yet. So sometimes it's just safer to stick to that familiar identity of struggle and take yourself continuously back into proving to yourself why you should not be doing this, sticking your neck out for what you believe is your path for your art and then get hurt. So very often the artist has already explored a lot of those beliefs and feelings because that's part of the training. But being able to let go and change it is a whole different story. Without going too deep here, I just want to say that usually none of these stories are true. They just feel very true because you've been telling yourself the same story over and over and over again like a mantra. And therefore, you started believing it at some point. So I see a lot of people being almost addicted to the struggle because that way they have one, two, three more things to work through before they can actually allow themselves to move forward. Does that sound familiar? But of course, that move will never come because it will always bring up the next thing you have to work through. And then the next thing you have to work through. I'll be happy when comes to mind. So let's move on to the business leaders. You're the strategist, the executor, the one who builds the plan and makes things happen. Your gift is you get shit done. But your danger, you define your worth by results. There's almost like an achievement addiction. You chase success like it's the ultimate destination. You're probably asking, what do I actually get out of this? And here's the twist. You're achieving like a machine, but you rarely stop to feel any of it. You've gotten so good at hitting goals that you've forgotten to ask if the goals even matter. You're not broken. You're just so focused on the scoreboard that you've lost sight of the player. Now, working with you kind of people is very easy because once you understand the value of letting go, your return on investment, you are ready to dive in and do the work. The challenge might be to get you to slow down, to break some of the old patterns and beliefs, because it goes so much against everything that you are built for. However, I love saying slowing down will allow you to speed up, or even simpler, slowing down will make you faster. Because you get a whole different access to your resources. You see the shortcuts and don't sabotage the ease of getting there. Now, let's talk about the athletes. You're disciplined, you're focused, you're strong, you push through. But when I say self sabotage, I hear, nah, I don't do that. And I know why. Your entire identity might be built around never showing weakness. You've been trained to override anything that looks like doubt, to perform, to push through. Of course you do, because in many cases you are being watched very closely, sometimes by millions of people, and a crack in the veneer could bring down the whole market value. Or so you believe. But if you're always pushing, how do you even know when you're holding yourself back? And I get it. A lot of your growth and success is happening mainly physical, or again, so you believe. Once you understand how strong your mental, your emotional, and especially your subconscious state is influencing your performance, you will never want to stop looking at what else you might be able to unlock. It's magic because that's what this work is really all about. There's nothing wrong with you. There is no crack. Nothing needs fixing. But if there's an area in your life or your performance where you just can't access that last extra bit, or you keep hitting the same wall again and again, why not do everything to access those resources that are waiting to be unlocked? And I get it. The fear that might be lingering under the surface might be, if I admit I have blind spots, will that make me look weak? And in my experience, it's quite the opposite. People around you will suddenly ask what that new confidence is and where that came from and why you are suddenly so much faster in getting results. And that goes for all three types, by the way. I mean, this is what was happening to me. I was still on stage, but already doing this work for myself. And colleagues kept asking, what are you doing differently? What's changed? Because they could tell I wasn't my usual self anymore, always questioning if I'm actually good enough to do the job. I have often used the analogy of one of those old styrofoam aeroplanes that we had as kids that you had to, put together and then you had a rubber band and you started pulling and the moment you let it go, it starts flying. This is how I see all of you. I cannot tell you how to run your business. I cannot show you how to use your voice better or utilize your craft better. I certainly cannot tell you how to play better football because you already know how to do your job well. What I do know is how to unhook those rubber bands, to get the hooks out so you can fly where you are already going. So you don't put all that work in that your performances demand and still being pulled back by an invisible parachute that you don't dare to talk about. But let me tell you, once you get those hooks out, once you cut the strings to that invisible back holder, you are able to step onto a whole new level of your talent. Now, why am I telling you all of this? At its core, this video here is to help you see self-sabotage in itself clearly, without shame, without confusion, and without the pressure to fix yourself. I just want you to understand it first. I'm simply trying to open you up to the idea that there might be another resource you haven't looked at yet. And in my experience, that work can be a lot of fun. Most people know something's holding them back, but they don't know what it is. They assume it's just how they are, or they try to fix it by doing more of what's already not working. This video is meant to be the interruption. It gives you the language to name the patterns you might be trapped in, the permission to admit what's going on beneath the surface. It gives you a mirror to show you that you're not broken. You're just running a pattern like everyone else. It gives you a gateway to move forward, not through hacks, but through awareness. Because here's the truth. And I think I say that a lot. You cannot shift what you cannot see, what you are not aware of. But once you see your pattern, you can break your pattern. And you don't need to become someone else. You just need to get out of your own loop. I say it again, this isn't about fixing yourself. It's about unlocking more of your potential. And that's why I always say, I don't just want to help you succeed. I want to take you beyond success, where peace replaces pressure. Joy becomes part of the journey and your achievements actually feel like yours. Imagine you feel you deserve your success. I know that's a struggle for many. So keep an eye on this channel, and in the next video, I will dive into how to end self-sabotage and why you might be addicted to it. Then we go into the hidden cost of playing small and how to break free. And then one that is probably the most important, how to trust yourself again, even if you failed before. And if this resonates with you and you want to support me a little bit, make sure you subscribe and hit the like button. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments so I can answer them for you. I've been doing this for over 15 years now and might have some good understanding of where you might need to look.